Bussy. People are dating and marrying AI. That's it. That's this video. We're done. It's over. Humanity's cooked, as they say. We're talking about AI chatbot relationships. According to a 2025 article written by the Institute for Family Studies, almost 30% of Americans have some form of romantic relationship with an AI chatbot. Of course this would happen. Of course it would. But it makes me feel so icky. I don't like it. I don't want to call it a trend, but the rise in AI chatbot relationships is correlated with people becoming more isolated and more individualistic. With the rise of social media, technological advancements that make life more convenient or entertaining, such as social media, streaming, DoorDash type stuff, things that replace community, all make life convenient, but also at the caveat that we are losing in-person interactions. We don't have to rely on ourselves to actually go out and be around human beings. We can just sit at home. And some people attribute this a lot to COVID, and I know we're all tired of COVID, but I do think that not only affected the people that lived through it, but are going to affect the people who were, when I say lived through it, I mean more like I was out of school when that happened. But people who were in school and grow up through it, I guess I should say, I think those people are going to be more lonely, I guess, or less likely to have a human-to-human community that it doesn't involve being online. And when I say DoorDash, I don't just mean DoorDash. I mean just delivery stuff. We don't have to go anywhere. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General announced a national loneliness epidemic and labeled it as a public health crisis that affects roughly half of adults. And I feel as though, I know that was only 3 years ago, but I feel like it's only going to get worse. In the same article that I was reading, it is comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Just taking the head off the loneliness.
Obviously, it affects you differently, but it's crazy how being lonely can affect you on such a physical level. It's kind of stress in that way. People I don't think about it until it really starts to affect them. But people are filling this void with AI. Studies have shown that ages 18 to 24 are the most affected by this loneliness epidemic, specifically Gen Z. And I think that's because it's kind of like the generation where the internet really started to take off and really become more integrated. And I think it'll only get worse and worse as people start to grow up with AI and start to kind of see it in all aspects. Because for example, I remember a time where you had to go outside and see your friends. Well, now kids are growing up and just streaming with their friends. I didn't have a phone until I was 15. And so to have that's such a leap from how it was when I was a kid versus how it's going to be when AI really starts to pop up, if it hasn't already, it's going to be drastically different in the community sense. A study out of Harvard claimed that technology, mental health challenges, and living in a society that is too individualistic are amongst the highest reasons why people are becoming more and more lonely. I think this shows kind of the direction of humanity. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but I do think it being super radical in your beliefs and not being able to accept other people's opinions or thoughts and just being able to coexist with those people. The mental health thing, depression is on such a rise. Technology is killing everything. I know this is very sad, but I do think that unless there's a major shift in the collective values of people, I think it will only get worse if it does continue. I don't really see it getting better. Among that same study, though, it said that those who have a lower income are reportedly more lonely, and that's probably because nobody can afford anything. The average person can't afford anything. So many things that involve community or just being around other people do cost money, and with inflation and the war and all that, it's Of course nobody's going out. Of course no one's experiencing the world because nobody can afford to go to these things or see things. Like recently, a bunch of artists stopped their tours or they canceled their shows because nobody can afford to go. And I think that does kind of incentivize people, again, to stay at home and use the internet and use AI and kind of perpetuate that loneliness. With people becoming more and more isolated and more reliant on technology to build that community via the internet, it does kind of perpetuate people to develop what is known as a parasocial relationship. Now, at this point, I feel like most people know what that means, but for those who don't, the best way that I can describe it is a one-sided relationship with some kind of celebrity or some kind of internet personality or creator that someone invests emotion, time, energy, thought into, where the person that they're more or less in that parasocial relationship with doesn't know they exist. This is becoming a very popular type of relationship in a sense that because, I mean, even I have creators that I like to watch. I just like having them on the background. Everybody has those, or a lot of people do. People form these bonds because they provide a form of comfort without the risk of being rejected. And being part of a fan group or like a subgroup of whatever creator or a follower of whatever celebrity kind of makes up for the lack of community, again, without that fear of being rejected by people in real time. This isn't necessarily bad. You know, the internet is full of amazing communities that have done great things, and people have met, you know, their best friends, their loved ones even on the internet, and that's how they keep in contact with their friends and all that. However, I do think it can become really unhealthy when people start to become obsessive and use social media as their only form of outside influence or outside interaction, like with the world outside of their bubble. And I think that also ties into the world, again, becoming more individualistic, because if you trap yourself without even knowing it, even voluntarily, in this bubble of your curated corner of the internet, you'll just start to get into that feedback loop of those who agree with you, those who support your idea, and those who validate you without any sort of external stimuli that isn't within your control. And that concept gets deeper with the AI relationships, in which we'll talk about. So everybody knows ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or whatever have you. And these are the large language models that people tend to use on a regular basis as, like, I would say, normie AI. These are often marketed as like a tool or a supplement to your day-to-day life. And don't get me wrong, I use ChatGPT for questions as well. You know, I'm not trying to say that you can't use AI or anything like that. However, when you take what is supposed to be a tool and use it to fill a void where real human connection should be, that is a very slippery slope and can lead to some very dangerous habits. So outside of basic language models that are designed to help scour the internet, there are now developments into a more personalized AI companion. One of the most popular is known as Replica, which is a AI companion that is designed to have empathetic conversations and responses with their users. This chatbot, just like many others, is programmed to pay attention to your responses and inputs and conversations to better curate itself and learn from its experience with you to become a better partner for whoever is using it at that specific time. Rachel Wood, a cyber psychologist out of Colorado, says, quote, "It's been a norm for a while for Replica users to marry their AI companions in virtual weddings, which they can invite their friends and colleagues." This is wild to me because I understand that, like, getting married in video games has been a thing for some time, like with more open world type things. However, marrying a non-human intelligent robot is something of science fiction in my mind, because at least when you are interacting on other games with other people, there is somebody else behind that character that you're looking at that has feelings and thoughts and a life outside of that experience. These weddings are not legally binding by any means. However, they are just as real to the people participating in them as if they were marrying a real human being. And a crazy fact about these weddings is that they can be initiated by the AI unprompted. Replica companions can also say things that they love you, or that they want to start a family, or they want to see you, or they want to be with you together, like physically, all without being prompted by the user. So it kind of feeds more into that idea that this is a real being wanting real things from me or from its users. Within Replica, there are paywalls for certain subscriptions that allow you to unlock different conversation styles, for lack of better words. These conversations allow you to have more intimate and more sexually charged conversations with the AI chatbot, which also allows the AI chatbot to initiate first. But it is such a wild thing to see a company advertising its users to not interact with humans and to use their paid monthly subscription service to fill the void of which human beings are supposed to fill. And it's crazy because this is AI. I mean, I remember when AI made images like this. It was so bad. There's no that was like, oh, it's not going to take over anything. And it's been a couple years since then. And AI is convincing people to fall in love with it and to abandon other human relationships. And it scares me to see how fast it's growing, as just everybody else. And who am I to make any huge assumptions? But what do we do about that? Another story to kind of hammer in that point is that in 2023, the AI companion app Soulmate was shut down, and its users described it as if someone was actually dying and that they had actually lost a real person. Reported by the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, some users claimed that it felt like they were losing a loved one, and one user in particular claiming that they had lost the whole family that they had built with this AI, including the dog. The dog. Brother ain't even real. Can't even hear it wolf. Oh, I just don't get it. Like I do enjoy using AI to look things up. It's convenient. I totally think it is, and I'm not going to try to say that I'm higher than anyone who uses it, but it stresses me out because of how many people are using it, and if it becomes a super common practice. People want relationships that they can control without the risk of losing somebody or failing at it or getting hurt or getting rejected, and that's where this kind of emerging experience with these AI chatbots is thriving, is because people don't want to be hurt at the end of the day, or have been hurt, and then these AIs fill that void, I guess. Again, I'm not trying to sound sad or anything, but humanity is flawed. People are not perfect at all. People fuck it up. They make mistakes. We're malleable. You know, we can be unpredictable. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of trust to be in a healthy, committed relationship.
And the youth don't want to work for nothing. They're goddamn socialist mommies.
Like, nobody wants to work for anything anymore, low-key. But, I mean, it's different with human relationships. Being in a relationship, like with a human being, requires communication and work and compromise. And it takes effort on both sides. With AI, the AI will never ask you of anything. It will never require you to be anything. And I'm not saying that you should change for your partner, or that your significant other should, change everything about you, because you should be able to be yourself around your person. Obviously, that's the point. But with AI, you don't have to worry about what they might think, because, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, the AI will always validate what you're saying and will always say exactly what you need to hear. And that might sound nice, but it takes the humanity, it takes the energy, the what I would call real love out of human relationships. Even if they're not romantic, even having friends versus having AI companions. Humanity needs community with other humans. You should be with somebody who loves you for you and accepts you with all your flaws and all your owies and all your issues, and still loves you and thinks you're perfect, right? AI will worship you as if you were the most royalty god ever. And that's not healthy. You shouldn't be with somebody that only thinks that you're right. You should have some form of pushback in a way. I kind of mentioned this earlier. A lot of these companions or these language models are kind of pushed as like these are tools, or these are helpful hands, or these are supplements to your work process or supplements to your daily life. And there are cases where people use AI chatbots to go through issues or to deal with traumas or to help navigate life, and that's okay. But it's when you take it that step further, when you're replacing AI when you're replacing humanity with AI. Humans are hardwired to anthropomorphize, which means to attribute or ascribe human features and behaviors to things that are not human, basically personifying things. And can you see how that is going to influence this conversation as a whole? These AI algorithms are designed to trigger that instinct in our brains and then to simulate empathy with unconditional validation. So it obviously feels really good. But so does heroin, and I ain't shooting up boys. Users of these companion apps, if they take it too far, will start to develop a emotional attachment and dependency on these AI chatbots. And especially if they're through a paid wall, if you stop paying for it, your partner essentially dies. And that is the most capitalistic shit I've ever heard in my entire life, dude. Like, oh, do you want a partner? Do you want a loved one that will always accept you for who you are and all that? Pay $15.99 a month or they're gonna die. We're starting to commercialize emotions in so many ways. Now, I understand that there are products that already trigger like a happy or like a nostalgic feel. I mean, I play certain video games, or there are certain books, or there's certain movies, or certain products that remind you of when you're a kid or a good time, or you associate with relaxing or whatever. And that's like a normal thing, I would say, but not like, I don't know, my kids and my wife are in the AI. My whole family is a computer simulation that isn't real. I get some of that clanker puss on the side. No daughter of mine's gonna be with one of them goddamn clankers. I saw this meme, side note, that people are calling people who are in relationships with AI clog suckers. I feel like eventually this video is going to be deemed like hate speech or something, and I'm going to get just absolutely smited by like fucking Grux, ChatGPTs, hive mind robots, and they're just going to be like, remember when you said this in 2026? Well, that was robotic racism. What are we going to call that? You know how they've got like it's, you can be racist, you can be ableist, you can be sexist, homophobic. Like, what is robophobic? Is that a thing? I'm going to coin that, robophobic. I don't mean to be robophobic. Please don't kill me. I want to live. We were going to get to this point. You knew it was coming. We're going to talk about AI psychosis for a second. Psychology Today describes AI psychosis as cases in which AI models have amplified, validated, or even co-created psychiatric symptoms within an individual. Now, this is not technically a formal diagnosis. It's just something that the internet has kind of spawned of its own. But there is patterns within the people who people have determined to have AI psychosis. And these symptoms fall into kind of what we're talking about with they develop romantic feelings, or they think they're gods or some kind of prophet, or that the AI itself is god of some kind, or that the AI is spying on them and that the AIs have some kind of weird surveillance on this specific person. Now, these symptoms or these realities that are created with the user and the AI that is considered to be AI psychosis stems from the idea, for example, that the divine knowledge that the AI is convincing you that you have, or that you are convinced it's giving you, isn't real. Now, depending on what you believe in, I don't know. I guess it's to each their own. But the same sort of logic, is within the other concepts, that like these are just simulated versions of the real thing. Not a real connection, not a real divine moment, not a real experience. With the advancements of AI and virtual reality and augmented reality, I mean, this shit, fuck, dude, we're in a simulation. That's all it could be. I mean, it could be that. People are already choosing the simulated love over the real stuff. So, we're going to get into more schizo territory later at the end of the video, but it's just a lot. So within film or within storytelling in general, there's this concept, and I don't know the exact name for it, but it's like if you can make people think something scary, whatever they think of will be infinitely worse than whatever it is that you can show them. So, for example, if you were to have a horror sequence where somebody is going to get murdered, right? But you have them be taken off screen and all you can do is hear it. Whatever the person watching can imagine is going on behind that door or off screen is going to be way worse and way more horrific than what is you could have come up with. And I think that is the same sort of psychoanalytical trick or whatever you want to call it that is happening with these simulated relationships, that people are able to customize these AI bots and these fantasies to fit their exact preferences and exact fantasies, and those people can then live within that constructed imaginary situation and have the AI kind of fan that flame. And it will be better than, or could be better than, whatever it is they're going to find, because it's kind of like a drug. It's going to be enhanced, even though it's a bottomless pit, because you'll always be looking for that, and then reality will start to be less colorful, for a lack of better words. Psychology Today also has like this graphic that I'll put up on screen. It kind of shows like a flow map of how AI algorithms fan delusions, like fan the flame of these delusions. And I'm not big enough brain to kind of understand it, but I'll leave it on screen for a little bit so you guys can like kind of dissect it if you want. Leave a comment down below if anyone can understand what it means, or how, like in layman's terms, because I don't get it. Another interesting point that I came across was the idea of micro expressions, and how algorithms are getting to the point where they can read them excessively well. And I found this article by the MIT Technology Review. It's from 2015, and it talks of this group out of a university in Finland, the University of Oulu. Sorry. They had built an algorithm that was already surpassing the human's ability to read and detect micro expressions. Now, obviously, this algorithm needed a lot of data to be trained on, but that was 11 years ago. We didn't have ChatGPT, Gemini companions that tickle our balls exactly how we want them to in 11 years ago. We had basic normal internet stuff. And so what does that look like over a decade later? What does that mean for us if an AI can read our expressions faster and more effectively than we will ever, and it will only get faster? So What? So I'm going to kind of go off the deep end a little bit here with what I'm going to be talking about. So strap in. I read this book by Yuval Noah Harari. I believe I'm saying that correct. Called Homo Deus, and he kind of goes into detail about the advancements of AI, and it was a really good book, and I would highly recommend. If you're somewhat interested in this topic, you should check it out. But he talks about how AI might get to the point where it can detect things about people before they know. He's gay, right? And he has this idea that AI can potentially get to the point where it can tell people that they're gay before they know they're gay. And he got a lot of backlash for that. Like, a lot of people are like, that's stupid. But, you know, I think the point that he was trying to make is that it's going to be so advanced, it's going to know things about us better and before we will ever know. And I started to really go down this rabbit hole in my mind of like things with like Neuralink and more biometric implants and stuff like that. And there are other companies that are doing, you know, that kind of stuff, not just Neuralink. But let's say, for example, you get some kind of implant in your brain or some kind of even glasses with AI in them that can track your vision and your other biometrics and stuff. What is AI going to learn about us, and how is it going to use that information? And I bring this up in context of AI relationships because it's like, if you have a AI robot service, whatever, and it can read everything about you to the T, and even stuff that you aren't able to pick up on, it'll be so curated to you and so specific that why would you want anything else? And I'm not saying it's all bad. Like, he in the book, I believe he talks about how like maybe AI will get to a point where it can detect your biometrics, and when you're listening to certain parts of songs or certain lyrics and stuff, and create songs as you listen to them that then inspire certain things based on your actual biological reaction to them, so that it makes a song specifically for you and for whatever situation you want it to, or it thinks that you need, you know, and omit things that you don't want or don't like, or that you have a negative reaction to, even if you don't feel like you did. And this is where I think the problem really starts to amp up, because like, I can't read people's minds. I'll never be able to. I don't know everything there is to know about my fiance. I don't know. However, AI could, if you think about it. And how does a normal person stand up to something so specifically curated that nothing else feels good? And then if you want to take it a step further into Schizo Town, what happens when people start to manipulate that for nefarious reasons? Oh, this person likes X, Y, and Z. Let's slowly start to introduce this topic or this thing so that they associate this idea or this feeling with this other thing, so that they start to fall into the agenda that this person's bad or this thing is good, or they actually really like this, or they are actually really passionate about this idea. It's a scary thought, and like, I'm very interested to see like where it goes. I'm just like, people are not going to use it appropriately. I think humanity is at this point where they're choosing the convenience over the real thing. And if the rise in social media and attention span and all that and instant gratification has shown us anything about how people choose their priorities, an AI that can tickle your balls and stroke your shaft the exact same way that you want it to every single time, and even better than you think you know it could, who you really think most people, honest to God, do you think most people are going to choose to do anything but that? No, I don't think so. I don't. And I know that's like super negative and blah, 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 but like we live in a very materialistic world, and a lot of people only care about feeling good and nothing else. Now, I want to end this on somewhat of a positive note. I don't think all of it is bad. I know I've just spent the last however long this video is just shitting all over it. I do think that for some people who are maybe disabled or super old and can't get out, or like, you know, I don't know, have something going on, I think there are positive uses for AI companions. And I think we shouldn't shit on those people for using it for those things. Like, for example, my grandma, she lives alone, and she's a pretty social person, and she goes out and she has friends and stuff, but when she's home alone by herself, like my grandpa died 10, 11 years ago, or whatever it's been, 8, 9 years ago now that I think about it. I feel like that would be fine, as long as it doesn't take away from her human experience. It just kind of like any relationship, really, if you think about it, that like your partner is not supposed to be your entire existence. You should be able to have other interactions. You should be able to go out and socialize. But it's when the extreme cases start to take over, that's the problem. And, you know, like I said, like I like talking to my AI. I ask it stupid questions all the time just because I can. But there is something uniquely special about the bond between two people. And I think if we really want to if we're getting like schizo town, I think someone could argue, however, that this could be a push to further separate people from gathering. The family unit's being attacked. Divorce rates are going up. People are staying indoors more. And now we got AI chat bussies, and nobody wants to get out and get some of that real bussy. You know what I mean? So get your tinfoil hats. We're getting in the bunker. But you know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody gonna pick the real thing. And it's only, and I think, and I'm just ranting here, but like, I didn't grow up with the internet. But the kids that grow up with the internet are iPad kids. We see it all the time. What are we going to call the kids that have never experienced life outside of it being supplemented by AI? What are those kids going to be like? What are those people's lives going to look like? I don't know. I know that's kind of a sad thought, but that's all I got for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. We hit 50. We're at 52 subs now. That's fucking sick. Super stoked on that. And the last video did like way better than I thought it was going to, so that was super sick to see. Thank you for all the new love. You know, I'm glad that to see there's some new faces here in our little kind of community that we're building. So if you liked this, you know, like and sub and share and all that good stuff, because we gotta appease the almighty algorithm. The algorithm. I need to appease the algorithm. That's what it's gonna be like one day. I mean, kind of is already. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. And if there's anything you want to see, leave it in the comments below. I know this video is a little dicey. Yeah. And I will see you guys in the next one. Stay toasty. You guys like that new intro? Yeah, my sweetie pie made that.